folks, this is Lurch from Ireland Gaming and welcome back to another episode of From the Depths. I have some very exciting news. The advanced custom cannons are now live. So you can actually download them on Steam and start playing about with them yourself if you haven't been using the dev branch. Sorry there wasn't a video yesterday, but the cannons have went through such dramatic changes in the last 2 days. Nick has been an absolute workhorse in firing through the updates. There's been about 8 updates in the last 2 days. But I didn't want to cover anything that would be changed almost instantly. So I've sort of put off recording all day yesterday and waiting for things to go sort of stable. And now I'm going to quickly walk you through some of the changes to the new cannon system. The basics are pretty much the same, but there are a few sort of extra design constraints that you have to consider now, and there's also some sort of nifty alternative methods for doing this. You don't have to just bolt a million autoloaders onto the side of things now. There's other options. So, first things first, let's have a look at the autoloaders. If I can get onto one here, let's just go to the barrel. You can see a new thing in the middle there, autoloader time increase due to complexity 4.82. That means that each autoloader takes 4.8 times the amount of time to reload that they normally would do, based on the number of autoloaders that you have. They slow down the reload based on the number by a scaling factor of 0.25. So this means that every autoloader that you add gets 25% less efficient than the previous one that you added. So it acts like a sort of a soft cap and sort of simulates mechanical complexity, like it says. So it takes time. I mean, the more autoloaders you bolt on, it gets harder and harder to get the shell from that loader into the chamber and fire it. So kind of makes sense. It scales up really quite quickly though, so at the point where 60 autoloaders are now worth about the same as 15 in the previous patch. But do not despair. Yes, they have got a considerable nerf, but let's be honest here. This is a game, and games need to be balanced. You can still make some pretty absurd weapons. I mean, this gun can still fire ludicrously fast, but it's a lot less feasible to make these sort of crazy weapons. But it is possible if you put your mind to it. It's much more effective to have lots of sort of smaller weapons, and I kind of like the idea of having, ships bristling with lots of little guns. I mean, you can make more use out of your ammo caches this way. I mean, you can have one ammo cache filling up a number of different weapons. There's nothing to stop you doing that. So, yeah, it'd be cool. I mean, and there's nothing to stop you making something like my World Destroyer cannon. The fire rate will just be a little bit lower, or you'll have to make it a bit bigger to make it sort of equivalent. So, on to something else fun. We now have belt-fed autoloaders. These have a much higher fire rate than a standard loader, but they work slightly differently. They only have one input, so you can only actually put one clip onto it, and they can only fire when there are shells in the clip. Well, obviously. Whenever you run out of ammo, like completely out, the clip enters a reload state, or it'll fill from all the available ammo inputs. So whenever it's actually it's in its firing state, it can't accept ammunition. They're kind of cool. They allow you to make sort of really quite compact turrets with a good reload speed at the cost of a little downtime. Just for while the gun's reloading. They seem to be really good for aircraft, because you can do one attacking run and then they can reload on the loop back and then have another attacking run. By default, they'll reload anyway without being empty if you're within or after 60 seconds. But if you go into the actual inventory, if you go into the autoloader and press Q, it'll give you a time before reload, and this will let you set this beforehand. So if you wanted to reload start reloading after 10 seconds, now bear in mind, if it's reloading, it can't fire, so you don't want to do it too short, because you could hamper yourself. But if you want to say like 15 seconds of downtime, that's great, and then it'll stop firing and reload for you. This little AA turret I'm using here, I'll show this off in like a quick build video in the future. I'm still tweaking the design. There's been a lot of changes recently, and I'm still getting it to the way I like it. But just as an example, it's quite slow firing. It's an AA flat cannon. Uses the same altitude fuse that we were using in, or not the altitude, the timed fuse that we were using in the AA flak video. Shoots quite high explosive rounds. It's quite effective. It's very small though for its power, and we have quite low recoil as well, 3728. So it's feasible to have something like this on a ship, you know, on a smaller ship. The ammo consumption I've noticed is actually quite severe whenever we have 3 of these on the go though. That 24,000 ammo that I had there, well, ouch. Yeah, also this I think is fugly. It has to change. I tried to dress it up to make it look a little nicer, but I think I failed horribly. I don't like it. But anyway, on to something even more fun. Okay, so Autoloaders got a bit of a nerf, right? Well, clips got a bit of a buff. Your autoloader reload speed will now scale up based on the number of clips attached. So with a maximum of like 4 clips attached to your loader like I have here, you will see a 100% improvement in reload speed for that loader. So that's significant. And I've set up something here just to demonstrate quickly. This has 2 autoloaders, but because of the new mechanics, remember it's 25% less effective. And this has 1 autoloader with 4 clips installed. So if I start firing these, you'll see the one on the right that has more loaders is actually slower. So yeah, something to think about whenever you're building your cannons. It's a very interesting mechanic. I like it a lot. It opens up some sort of really interesting possibilities for your turrets. You know, you can make them quite compact, you can use very, very different designs, and it adds a little bit of creativity to the mix, I think. It's now quite a lot more efficient to use clips, I think, and take advantage of the reload buff. Just remember though, clips are explodey. Protect them well. The more clips you have, the more likely your gun will just completely pancake and explode. Now, there have been a bunch of new shell components added to make life a little bit more interesting. We now have EMP shells, which basically do exactly like they say on the tin. We have hollow points that act like a shell version of a thumper missile. They inflict melee damage and they're effective against very, very lightly armored targets. We have base bleeders, and these, where are you? These are kind of cool. They speed up your shell without using gunpowder by filling out the vacuum behind it with gas, and they're very effective. You lose a little bit of muzzle velocity, but they're very cool. We also have inertial fuses. Now these can be used to make anti-shield weapons, and they go off when they're deflected from their trajectory, so if it skims anywhere or if it hits a shield, it'll explode straight away. Very cool. Now finally, at least I think it is, there's a lot of stuff in these new patches. The desired barrel gauge now applies to multi-barrels. So if I set this to 2 barrels, previously this would have scaled based on the size of 1 barrel, but now if I set this to, for example, 100 millimeters, and then come out, you'll see we have, oh, okay, it's not exactly right, but shell diameter is 0.09, which is basically 10. So that works across multiple barrels now. It's quite useful, but sorry, Nicholas, Nick got in ahead of you. Your spreadsheet is no longer useful because it does it automatically. But you might have a bit of work to do with the autoloaders. It'd be nice to find out the best breakpoints for building your guns, whenever the numbers are finalized at least. Also, you can now overcharge your railgun chargers. This increases the charge rate, getting energy into your batteries, but it increases the energy consumption from your engines too. And it's a linear scale for the engine power, but you get the square root of the factor for charger improvement. So at the maximum of 10, the square root of 10 is about 3.16. So you get 3.16 times the recharge at the cost of 10 times more energy. But you can tweak this a bit and see, you know, if you have a lot of energy available, you can really ramp up the speed that your railguns charge at. But yeah, this railgun's actually an anti-orbital weapon. Someone suggested, it was Evan P, I think, suggested in the comments. It's pretty effective up to about 2 kilometers, but I think I can do a better job. So I'm going to do a video and build a bigger one with you guys. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little highlight of some of the new features for the advanced cannons. Now that things are approaching a solid balance, I will be able to start doing videos on more specific topics. I want you to shoot. Ooh. But yeah, and I'll try to cover the things I've mentioned in much better detail. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Any likes or subscribes or comments are really awesome. I really like hearing from you guys. I read every single comment. As always, take it handy and have a bloody good day.